Was it? That's good. I didn't realise it was actually that bad up your way, but then I suppose looking north there is some big clouds over there. Be interested to see what we see in a second though when we go up over here. Tide is out a little bit as well, which is nice. Very windy there. I'll tell you what's very interesting to see is the autofocus through misty stuff is bang on, literally so easy. The A7R IV would probably hunt a little bit right now. So as I said there, you can see quite a difference in when you zoom in, or crop in, shall I say, on the video. At 8K you can definitely see the stabilization is better. A little bit of a fight going on. And as I was saying before, when I first used the A1 and it had just come out, the stabilization wasn't working very well in 8K at all, or it wasn't working, one of the two. This is shot in 8K, then I've cropped in on the clip, so you're watching the clips twice, and it's much better. Unfortunately, it wasn't my camera, and we'd only just arrived, so these, I think they're Marsh Harriers, flying around, and literally, because it's not my camera, not set up exactly the same as my A7R IV, so I didn't really have a chance to swap focus points. So when I first started using them, the camera, it was only on center. So basically me missing, so as you see it go out of focus a little bit every now and again, that's because I've come off the target, not because the camera hasn't. And by the time they'd stopped flying around, I then had a chance to set the camera up properly. So it's kind of a real world test, because sometimes you just don't know what's going on, and sometimes they just, wildlife just appear. So it is a kind of split reaction test to actually get your camera going and get the shot, rather than actually having time to actually set the camera up first. So yeah, that's the way I look at it. But as you can see here in 8K, you've got plenty of cropping power. The weather is terrible, but as you can see, it's still a little bit juddery, but that's me getting buffeted by the wind. And we already, remember, we've got the 100 to 400 plus the 2x conversion one, so we're 800mm already. And then when you crop in another 100%, well actually 150%, so 3 more times, you are, in mega zoom kind of thing. As you can see here, I'm off target again. Slowed this down a little bit so you kind of get a little bit more time to actually see it, but obviously it's shot at 30 frames per second, so you've got to be a little bit careful, otherwise it gets a bit juddery. But as you can see there, even when I'm off target, it's still holding quite nicely. But remember, this is cropped in as well quite nicely, so there you go. And then birds flying around. These birds are around about 200 meters plus away, so we are struggling with heat haze because it's summer in England, and there is heat haze from anything over about 100 feet, 50 meters or so. You do start to get some heat haze building, and to get shots of the birds in flight was quite difficult. Anything that was closer up, like this crow here or whatever it is, a raven, it was fine. But as you can see here, in the bird hovering there, to get a thing, and then had a poo. A1 decided to focus on the bird poo, but as you can see, they're not hugely sharp because they're just so far away. Duck there, absolutely fine, no problem at all. This bird here flying past, some kind of wading bird, as you can see here. You can see the heat haze in the distance in the background. I know it's all out of focus, but you can still see there. But once the birds were closer, no problem at all. Bang, 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 no worries whatsoever. I autofocus, not really working very often. A couple of times it did, but not in flight. And obviously, like this bird here, miles and miles away as well. But it was more just to see if Robert's 1.4 converter was working, and I thought, well, while we're here, we may as well have a play with the A1 again, with the 2x converter and the 100 to 400. It works really well, but like I said, when you've got heat haze building, you know, your distance from your subject is quite important. So as long as they're not too far out, we worked out obviously that anything over sort of 50 meters or so was starting to get soft because of the heat sort of distortion. So that was an issue. But when you've got birds flying not that far away, you know, without cropping in too heavily, it's absolutely fine. So it's just an experiment. It was just a bit of fun. Unfortunately, the weather was very windy, so I was getting blown around a bit as well. So that kind of hinders you slightly. With the 2x converter, I really like that situation where the fact you can just whip it off quickly and you've got 100 to 400 again. So obviously it's most ideal at 100 to 400 because obviously there's no other optics in the way. So the 2x does lose a little bit of sharpness, but nothing I've really noticed as much of an issue. I mean, maybe because of the distance we were trying to shoot at, you know, it was possibly counteracting it slightly, so making it worse. You can see here with the autofocus working on the A1 absolutely brilliantly. So even when the bird is almost out of shot, it's still holding on to it, and even when it goes out of shot completely, and I come back in, it's still holding on to it, which is very, very impressive. As you can see there, it's right on the corner of the edge there, and it's not hunted at all. So it's come back in, right back down to this one here. Not always hitting the sort of the main part. It's going for the wing, which is the closest point. As you can see there, it's a little bit soft apart from the wingtip, and then straight out off shot completely. And I'm trying to keep up with the thing because they're doing sort of 50 mile an hour plus, and you don't really know where they're going. As you can see here, it's still out of shot. That's about 3 frames just gone, and it comes back in and it's still in focus. So that is really, really impressive. The A1 is an absolute monster. Absolute monster. It works really, really well. And I thought I was going to, when I picked the A7R IV back up to snap some of the shots before I went, I was kind of thinking, am I going to feel like I'm using a dinosaur? Yeah, it's not quite as fast, and it does seem a bit more clunky because obviously you're using the mechanical shutter. But still very impressed with it. And you know, at the end of the day, the A7R IV hasn't suddenly become a crap camera, has it? It's still amazing. As you can see here, the shot's working with the A1 straight through the load of flowers there, like a load of wild flowers, like a big bank of them. And I was shooting straight through them as I panned through, and didn't miss a beat. So yeah, I mean, absolute beast of the camera. Really, really enjoyable to use. It does rip through the batteries much faster than the A7R IV. I noticed that. And obviously your memory goes very, very quickly as well. So I shot 128 gig very, very quickly, 20 and 30 frames per second. You know, shooting, and again, obviously, look, off shot almost, and it's still holding on to the bird. Very, very clever bit of kit. So, you know, these weren't particularly challenging shots, you know, all in all. But end of the day, you can't ask for the wildlife to be there. So, you know, we shot multiple different birds. Some were crap. Some it's just it was unfortunately it was a very hazy day, like I said before. But it was good fun, and you know, I'm glad I sorted out the issue with the 1.4 converter for Robert. That's now gone in for repair to the Sony Service Centre. As you can see here, this shot here, you can see the heat haze in the distance there behind, sort of with the little ripples and everything. And just to go back to the A7R IV in a sec, this shot is quite, the seagull was looking at us, which was quite cool. But yeah, both amazing cameras really. This shot here, A7R IV, so that can shoot through loads of flowers and stuff, no problem at all, whilst tracking a seagull flying towards me. No real drama. But I just thought I'd show you out there, especially the 8K. I was quite impressed with the 8K video, how well it actually works now, because before the stabilization wasn't working at all, and it was just shaky, and I was thinking, this can't be right, surely. But now they seem to have fixed it, especially when I put it to its limit, really. If you think about it, I had an 800mm lens on there, and then we were cropping in as well. So even though it's a little bit juddery in places, you know, we're sort of probably at 1600mm as a crop in It was quite mad really. So that's all handheld and it's quite windy. So that's definitely been good. The viewfinder issue that we first, when we first used the A1 is gone. No issues whatsoever. I mean, we obviously used the A1 for quite a few hours, and there was no, no problems with the EVF anymore, which is brilliant. So they've sorted that out. I know some places around the world didn't even have the problem, but it seems to be something over here in England that we seem to get the ones that don't work properly for some reason. But anyway, that's all sorted, and the A1 just seems more responsive than it did before. So they've definitely done some tweaks with the A1 on the last firmware, the newest firmware, which is great. So that's an amazing thing. So it's definitely better than it was from when it was first released. So all the little bugs and everything seem to have disappeared. So that's a really, really good thing now. The like I say, the A7R IV, we're just waiting to. I'm waiting to see if they release something in between the A1 and the A7R IV. That's my personal kind of thing. That's what I'd quite like. If they don't, I'll probably just go and buy an A1. But at the moment, I'm just sitting there. I'm going to carry on using the A7R IV. It works brilliantly still. And for what I do for work-wise, and obviously I've got the RX-10 Mark IV as well. It works perfectly for what I need at the moment. And yep, the A1's amazing, and I would love to have one. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's better just to sit back and wait and see what comes next, because I think we might be getting something that is kind of in between, hopefully anyway, that will kind of suit me best. But we shall see. Anyway, see what your thoughts are on this, and I shall see you soon. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, the little notification bell as well. More videos coming soon. Been to Goodwood Festival of Speed this weekend, and that was amazing. So keep an eye out for that. See you soon.